My name is Amari, and this is our summary and review on the BET Plus film, Whatever It Takes. So, to summarize the film, it focuses on three women who all work at the same school. There's Joan, Tracy, and India. Joan is somebody who was raised with a preacher of a father and was very much told and instructed how to be a lady. So because of that, she stuck by the side of her husband, even though he was a philanderer. And later on in life, even though she divorced him, she was trying to pull herself back into a relationship with him, even though it's making her more volatile than she usually is. In terms of Tracy, she is struggling with her her high school. She is struggling with the man that she met when she was a teenager in terms of him just not doing right. He used to be a hustler, but then he got arrested. And of course, with that, finding a good job is hard for him. Meanwhile, she's not rich, but she's doing okay. And they have a child together who, considering when she got pregnant as a teenager to how old we know Tami Roman is now, that the age of the child's a little bit weird, but we're going to set that aside. The point is, she's having issues in her relationship just like Joan is having issues with her relationship, but for different reasons. But then when it comes to India, her problem is she ain't got nobody. She instead is just a friend that often overcooks, potentially overeats, and she does date every now and again, but all the men have been trash. That is until she gets with Joan's son, Devin Jr., and of course with her getting with her friends from work's son, and even friend outside of work, it leads to a bit of a complication, especially since Devin is definitely a young man, and Joan has opinions about who should or should not date her son, which leads to issues. And of course, Tracy is thrown in the middle for her knowing, and it's just a lot of drama with a minor Christmas theme involved. So, getting to the review portion, honestly, the only thing that really was a highlight for me was Tracy's storyline, and that's just because, one, Tami Roman is really showing herself to be a good actor, and two, I feel like the way this film is, it pushes you to think that she needs to stop being like co-lead or part of an ensemble. For her storyline with, I believe her character's boyfriend name is Juju or Cletus or something like that. But either way, it was the most interesting thing about this film, because just imagining somebody being with someone from their teen years to their adult years, them being an ex-hustler and then struggling in order to go legit. Meanwhile, you're holding things down, you have a kid together, and Tracy's at that point where she's kind of like, I'm sick of being stuck with a bum when I know I can get and do better. Yet at the same time, there's history there. It leads to the type of complications that it makes Joan and India's story feel like such a burden to have to deal with when there's so much more that could have been done with Tracy's. And getting to the on the fence portion, what's the kicker here is that this is a long holiday movie. Most holiday movies are like 90 minutes and then they become 2 hours because of commercials. This is an hour and 52 minutes, and because it's on BET Plus, there are no commercials, so it feels like a long movie, and what makes it worse is that it's sluggish. And while, again, Tracy's storyline is a highlight, because India and Joan's storyline feels like that generic stuff that we get every year regarding, someone who is definitely a bit prickly despite what they've gone through, and then this other person who's lonely during the holidays, and then when they get somebody, it's all complicated because of who that person is. I'm not saying their storylines couldn't have been good. I'm just saying, if you're going to have storylines like that, all storylines have to be equal. So to have Tracy's storyline like this much up here with all this potential, and then you have Joan and India's down here, it's a bad match. And going into that a bit more, as the second on the fence topic, I don't want to imply that Joan and India's storylines are outright terrible. I think the problem is that because the movie is split three ways, and even with only three main characters to focus on, I don't feel like there was enough time given to each story, and because of that, their storylines were compensated usually with the type of theatrics that holiday movies have. Whether it's heightened drama or slightly, I don't want to say over the top performances, but definitely performances that got kicked up a bit, it led to things not being on par. I mean, to get specific, with Joan, you recognize it's a good story there in terms of her being pushed throughout her whole life to be perfect and expected that out of pretty much everyone else since it was expected of her. Yet, I feel like they didn't really explore her relationship with her parents, even her mom who has dementia. And for like a hot minute, made it seem like Joan's dad wasn't the preacher but somebody else, but that gets thrown under the rug or swept under the rug, so that doesn't get explored. Never mind, their relationship isn't really touched upon either. All we get is Joan's mom being someone with dementia who says wild things, and then, you know, Joan, because that's her mom and she tries to apologize for her and kind of shames the mom for being outrageous. Not over the top outrageous, but saying things that are outrageous. Then when it comes to India, I mean, I feel like her storyline makes it so that you feel like you know her as soon as they let you know that she's single, been in a bunch of bad relationships, and yet when she shows up to any type of event, she does so much that you would think that this is her party. Like, you can see she's at that point in life where she could easily be the host, do all the things that one of her friends are doing. It's just she doesn't have that partner or that family that would allow her to be that person. And in a way, you can see they could have done more with India dating a younger man in terms of Devin, yet it doesn't really tap into that. It just quickly goes into the insecurities, the issues that Joan and India could have, and then it doesn't really develop the difference between generations. How would an older woman and younger man relationship work? And again, the whole film has missed opportunities when it comes to the characters and what the actors could have provided. But while we got a little bit further with Tracy, with India and Joan, it just feels like it lets you know there were opportunities. It's just those opportunities were considered too much to take on for a holiday movie, never mind a holiday movie that's split between three notable characters. Which is why overall we feel that when it comes to whatever it takes, because it's unable to balance the storyline of its three leads, the performances feel lopsided and it wastes a lot of potential that it had.